We'll go ahead and get started. This is Gary Trendle, Chair of the Hopkinton Planning Board, and I hereby call our February 7th, 2022 meeting to order. This open meeting of the Hopkinton Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with the recently signed, or not so recently signed, act extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until April 1st, 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of the governor's March 12, 2020 executive order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The new law has two major parts. First, the new law allows public bodies to continue providing live, adequate alternative means of public access to the deliberations of the public body, instead of holding meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public. Second, the new law authorizes all members of the public body to continue participating in meetings remotely. For this meeting, the planning board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the board's agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting is being broadcast by HCAM through multiple channels. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website via the web meeting calendar, unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda, unless I note otherwise. I think we are all pretty good on the ground rules, but for public comment, please wait until you are called upon and begin with your name and address, and you will be afforded 3 minutes for questions or comments. And then finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call. So we're just going to do our quick attendance here. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mary?
Mary Larson Marlowe here.
Rob?
Rob Benson here.
Fran?
Randy, I'm present.
Jane?
Jane Moran here.
Dave?
Dave Paul, present.
Sundar?
Sundar Sivaraman, present.
Shahidul?
Raidul Manan, present.
And Ron?
Ron Prefer, present.
And staff, when I call your names, please respond to the affirmative. Mr. Gelsich?
John Gelsich, present.
Ms. Pemberton?
Stephanie Pemberton, present.
And Mr. Paradis?
Bo Paradis and Beta, present.
All right. So really quickly, let me just talk through our agenda. We have a couple of A&Rs, of which we're going to go ahead and hopefully knock out first. And then we will move to the continued public hearing for the laborers training facility over on East Street. So let's just get the formalities out of the way, and we'll go ahead and open the hearing for the Laborers Training Center. So I will entertain a motion to open the major site plan review and stormwater management permit applications for the Laborers Training Center.
So moved, Sundar Sivaraman.
Rob second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Sundar and the second from Rob. Thank you both. Assuming no further discussion, we'll vote on opening the hearing. Mary?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Randy Young, yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar?
Sundar Sivaraman, yes.
Shahidul?
Raidul Manan, yes.
Ron?
Ron Prefer, yes.
And Gary Trendle is a yes. John, I have a quick process question. I've noticed that other boards are not having people state their name before they vote. And I'm just curious from a process perspective, if that is a change that in your eyes we can make just to help the roll call voting move a little bit faster.
I am not aware of that being okay. Everything I've been told is that board members need to state their name so that the general public knows that it's actually them if they can't see them, especially if, you know, the board member is not on video. Which obviously isn't the case here, but sometimes it is. And actually for Mary, it is. So saying a name, I think, is probably best practice at this point.
Okay. We'll keep doing it. Just figured I'd ask. All right. So the first A&R we have is for Whisper Way. And I see Mr. Nation. Is there anybody else that we need to unmute here? And I don't know, Mr. Nation, if you intend to provide any comments or explanation here. It's certainly not required, but we always like to hear what motivates these things.
Hi.
Hi, Craig.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, not the greatest public speaker here, but it's pretty simple change for something we frankly screwed up, but looks like we can make a simple change and be on our way.
All
Hopefully.
right, thanks, Craig. And maybe I can just quickly provide a little bit more background.
Yeah, probably
They
be better.
are looking to slightly alter the lot lines on the open space parcel in 2 locations. So it is not creating any new lots. And HALT has provided a letter in support of the lot line modification. However, they note that the developer still owns the land and it has not been covered by conservation restriction at this point. So HALT's opinion is not necessarily binding, but I think it's a total of 300 and some square feet. And it's just shifting that to another parcel. Thanks, John. Maybe I should have started with you.
Yeah, good one.
John, what do you have to add that I didn't mention?
You got most of it. It's really just changing a small part of the lot line. Not a substantial change. HALT has gave their okay, that they're okay with it. One of the concerns that I had was that this had already put a conservation restriction on it. So an act of the Massachusetts legislature would have been needed, but that's not the case. So it's still owned by the developer and it still can have the lot lines changed. HALT is going to be taking the ownership of the land. So that's why we had them weigh in and they don't seem to have a problem with it. So I think we should be all set.
All right. Thanks, John. Any questions or comments from the board?
Just a point of clarification. What was the driver for the change again?
Mr. Nation?
What was that?
What's the rationale or what's driving the change of the?
Well, when we got the certified plot plan back for the as-built, we realized we had created ourselves a small incursion on the setback with the foundation. We were, long story with every excuse in the book, but it turns out we put the house too close to the lot line.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to endorse the A&R for Whisper Way Ravenwood.
So moved, Mary Larson Marlowe.
Second, Fran DeYoung.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mary, how do you vote?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Fran DeYoung, yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar
Sundar?
Sivaraman, yes.
Shahadul?
Haider Manan, yes.
Ron?
Ron Prefer, yes.
And Gary Trundle is a yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Nation. Appreciate
Thank you guys. We'll try not to
jumping
have
in
this
there.
issue come up again, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Bye for now.
Moving on to Chestnut Street from Umida.
Hi, this is Amy Rakowski. I'm Mike's realtor. I've got him on my cell phone. He's just having trouble logging into the meeting. Mike,
Okay, well, let's do this.
I am here.
he's on my phone.
He's here. Well, maybe what we'll do is, John, do you want to quickly describe to us what's in front of us that you're showing here on the screen?
Sure. So there were 3 lots, if I remember correctly. And what they're doing is changing the lot line of this lot and then incorporating this bigger lot in the back with this lot. So they're dissolving what lot line was here. So There's access here and I believe here as well on this big lot in the back. And now they're basically combining this lot and then making this a separate lot. So they're taking 3 lots and making it 2. Do I have that correct, Amy?
Yes.
That is correct.
All right, just to orient myself, where on Chestnut Street is this?
This is Mike's house. You can see his existing dwelling at 24 Chestnut Street.
Can you give me a cross street on Chestnut? I don't know. I don't personally know where Mike's house is.
Mike,
that would be between Gibbon Road and between Grady Way.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So John, any other? I see you have a recommendation here.
It's coming through.
So this is through the chair. This is the existing. This is the big lot right here. And then it'll be combined with this lot, and then this lot is going to have its lot lines altered, but it'll remain as a standalone lot. So these 2 lots will be combined.
Thank you. Super helpful. Including that. Oh, including the that dog leg back to Benson.
Through the chair, could we be provided with a rationale as to why?
Amy or Mike, you want to give us a little?
here, Mike, you want to tell them why you're doing this? They want to know why you're doing this. Here you go.
Why I'm doing what?
Why you're changing your lot line. You just want to extend the lot line of your house. Yeah.
Couple things. One of the problems we have is that we had tried to put in a lot on the back land that was approval not required. And then when we were working on trying to do a housing development and it got refused and times were tough, and I went and picked up the plastic map there that they have, and I got a letter from what's her name?
Elaine.
Assistant manager to what's her name? I forget. Elaine Lazarus. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I went up there to her office, and she wrote a letter about me refusing to do that because we changed our minds. And I took the plastic and whatever else we'd had in that file, and I took it home. And she wrote a letter to that effect. And somehow somebody recorded that lot, which I never did. So I don't quite understand how it turned into that one lot in the middle of the other lot. And I've been paying taxes on it forever as a house lot, and it was not supposed to have happened. So I'm going to get to the bottom of that and find out how that happened. But for right now, I don't need that lot, and I want to include it in the one big lot. And I want to make sure also as well that I need to make my house lot be 1
acre.
1 acre of land because it was only 0.81, and I know that you're supposed to have the newer limit here is you got to have at least 1 acre of land for your house. And I'm getting old, I got cancer, and I'm not doing all that well, and I think I'm gonna sell my house and move out at some point. But it had to be 1 acre, to meet the town requirements for a house lot. So I'm changing that one into this one, and I probably might end up at 64 South Mill Street, or I might end up somewhere else. I'm not exactly sure, but it's my right to change the pieces of land that are together, because I no longer intend on doing any type of development work because number one, I can't anymore. And so I'm going to have it in one piece instead of multiple pieces that are multiple tax bills. And I just paid a lot of money in taxes here recently. There's some, family problems that go along with that, but I ended up paying it. So I don't see that there's an issue there other than to let me have the correct lot size for my house and return the other one to one piece.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thanks,
It's always very, very helpful for us just to kind of understand what's prompting it. And I'm sure that probably answers a lot of questions that the board might have had. Any questions or comments from the board? Fran?
Yes, through the chair. Combining the two lots, the one in the front and the larger one in the back, is the total combined lot size there? Is it 7 acres? Did I see a number on there? On the diagram, it shows 7.6. Is that the total new space?
Not quite, because
No,
that's the existing back lot. So between the lot lines shifting for the existing property and then combining the back lot with the other one, it's going to be slightly different, but something slightly greater than that.
8 point. Okay.
Yeah.
I see it now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, that's correct.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, and seeing none, I will entertain a motion to endorse the A&R as described in our packet for 0, 20, and 24 Chestnut Street.
Mary Larson Marlowe, so moved.
Schneiderman and second.
All right, and assuming no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. Mary, how do you vote?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Randy on yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar?
Sundar Subramanian, yes.
Shahadul?
Shahidul Manan, yes.
Ron?
Ron Prefer, yes.
And Gary Trendle is a yes. That motion carries. Amy and Michael, thank you. And Michael, I hope you recover well. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Can we finally get on through the Zoom here?
You're approved, Mike. You can go.
Yep, your A&R is endorsed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move forward to the Laborers Training Center. And I see Mr. Connors is here, RGB Architects. Mr. Paradis.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
First and foremost, I want to thank Mr. Connors for at least taking 3 of us on what I thought was a really helpful site walk. It was a cold, blustery, and icy day, but I know that I think all of us, Jane, Dave, and I would probably all agree that it's super, super helpful to see things in real time, in real life. So thank you, George. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending.
So I just want to remind everybody, we are going to work through our public hearing outline. So we've got a little bit of legwork to do here. Again, I think that we have a sense as to where the primary areas of focus are for us, in particular being screening, noise, and lighting, in addition to any stormwater concerns. But at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Phil to walk us through the, Phil, let's focus on the unresolved comments from your review.
Excellent. Yeah, we did have a little bit of opportunity to work through the responses that we received on Friday. Normally I wouldn't do this, but this is all I had to do. So anyway, so the first one is Z1, which is on page 3. So the height of the buildings exceed the maximum height for a non-residential building of 35 feet And the existing dormitory already exceeds a residential building of 40 feet, but that's a non-conforming, existing non-conforming use. So, so I don't know if there was some relief for what the applicant was going to do about that situation.
May I respond, or you're going to go through everything
Yes,
first?
please, go ahead, George.
Okay, sure. As you know, this is an educational facility under the statute 40A, section 3, which gives a lot of latitude for educational facilities, provided that they meet reasonable regulations relative to zoning and parking, basically. In this particular instance, we have an existing dormitory, and the new building the new addition that's being created there is substantially less than the 55 feet. I would suggest that we get relief. We are trying to get these plans to the building inspector to discuss these issues, but we have not been able to file them until we get site plan review aspect. So our dormitory is going up about 29 feet, so that's under the training building is the only other building that we think has an issue, and that's at 44.8 inches. Again, there's a reason for that, and statutes and zoning case law has indicated that it's reasonable to have things that are in excess of that. Probably familiar with the church in Belmont with the spire. These are issues really between us and the building inspector. If we do need to go for relief, I believe it's special permit based on your zoning, because it's a pre-existing non-conforming use out there to start with, and it would not be detrimental to the neighborhood. So I would hope that we'd be able to deal with that with the building inspector, hopefully get to him really, really quick.
All right, thanks, George. So just a quick clarification, because the residential, the dormitory, I realize is a pre-existing structure, and you're not adding any additional height to it. The crane building, and I heard a couple of different things. What is the maximum allowable height on the crane building?
I believe it's 40 feet.
40 feet?
I believe so.
That's for a residential building. A non-residential building is 35 feet.
It's 35
Right.
feet.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. And so, question for John. So, if we were going to allow this, is this something that moves into waiver territory? Or I guess I'm just a little confused, given the fact that it is educational, as to, process wise. If we determined to accommodate this, then what process would we use to do so?
So, planning board doesn't really have to worry about zoning conformance in this aspect related to site plan, because a part of the site plan approval is not conformance to zoning. That's covered under essentially the building permit. If they try to apply for a building permit and then the zoning enforcement official says, well, this doesn't really conform to zoning, then they have to go to ZBA to get relief. Planning board doesn't have the authority to grant relief from zoning like that, unless explicitly provided for in the bylaw, which it's not.
Okay,
So
got it.
Yeah.
So basically, for planning board purposes, what we need is we just need to show to Phil's comment here, we just need to show the building height on the drawings.
I think that will be helpful, and I think there might be a finding that's worthwhile to say that the planning board finds that the buildings will not conform in their current and potentially approved case. They would not be conforming to zoning.
Okay.
With regard to height.
So two questions then. First question for you, George. Can we get those heights added to the drawings?
Sure.
Okay. And then to the board, to the planning board, just curious if you guys have thoughts on this. I mean, if we want to go ahead and follow John's recommendation there, or if people have thoughts otherwise.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm fine with adding it as a finding. Thank you.
I would concur.
Okay. Anybody feel otherwise? Okay. Sorry, I think it probably makes sense just to go through these one off. So Phil, do you want to go to the next one?
Sure. The next one is basically a combined one, Z2 and Z4. Really just making sure that there's enough adequate parking and for the buildings, for the new classrooms. So the explanation that I understand is that the majority of the people will park at the Connie building, the big parking lot, and be shuttled to the various classrooms in the other buildings. I think when we first initially reviewed this, also, we didn't consider there's a parking lot on the opposite driveway of the headquarters building, which I think has about 20 spaces in it as well. So I just want you to, it's not real clean in terms of, parking spaces for a particular building and such. So I don't think it's a problem, but I just wanted to be out there. So
George, do you know how many parking spots in total are there on site approximately?
With the two new buildings and their parking, there's over 200 formal paved striped spaces. And that doesn't include areas up at the Maloney building. There's a huge paved parking area up there. So there's well over the required for this site, I believe, and they've operated again for many years. Some of the Google Earth imagery will show the place literally packed with parking, with cars and vehicles over time.
Yep.
So I think there's more than enough. And as we indicated, the parking at the various buildings is simply, as a courtesy parking word.
Okay. John, any recommendations on how we might, what's the cleanest way for us to resolve this? Because I don't think it's quite as simple as just a drawing change. I wonder if you have a recommendation as to how we kind of, and I guess we can just vote that or we can just, align that we're comfortable with the amount of parking on site. I know just from the sidewalk, I certainly am, but any other recommendations from you?
So, it's an existing use. They're not requesting a waiver from parking requirements. So if they come to get a building permit and their parking is insufficient based on the zoning enforcement officer's review of it, then they would need to get a variance, or I guess come back and amend site plan approval to get a waiver from the planning board. I haven't done the calculations with the required for comparison to the provided, but I mean, a quick look at it seems like they have enough. They had enough on their existing, and they're not really adding users, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
So
yeah, not adding users, existing use, existing. So there's not from what I'm hearing, there's not a reason to go. And I think this, yeah. To the board, questions, comments with regards to the parking?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Dave.
Can I suggest that we do just like with the previous one and create a finding noting that there's multiple other parking lots within the area, just to call it out? Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. Findings help explain our position, and given that we have notes from our peer review, I think that helps clean things up for future reviewers of this.
Thank you.
All right, let's
So yeah, the next comment would be Z5. Yeah, Z5, which so I think there's a couple more handicap spaces required for that dormitory building. There's almost 100 spaces, and I think they only show 2 handicap spaces where 4 are required. Not a big thing, but
We'll add in more.
Okay. And so, George, you go ahead and update the drawings to show the striping and the accessible parking spots.
Z11 is a requirement to show the site distance. Again, it's an existing condition. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but that can be shown on the plan. Similarly, Z12 is a requirement for showing where the trash management will be. The applicant indicates that there's going to be dumpsters, so they need to be located and screened on wherever they are.
May I comment?
Sure, George.
We did add dumpsters. We're going to keep the one at the dormitory where it is. We're going to share the dumpster. It's on the plans. We're going to share the dumpsters at the headquarters and the internal building, the Koya thing. And then at the Crane building, it's going to be out in the back near the leach field at the end of the parking. Those are there, and you may not have seen them. I didn't see them till I looked again tonight because they told me at the office they were there, so I went and found them.
Oh, okay. I didn't look because it said it will be added. Okay.
You got ahead of me.
Through the chair.
Yes, John.
George, can you just point me to an example of one of the plans? You said the Conti. I'm just looking at the revised plans. What good plan would be would if we choose to show that dumpster location?
Okay, Conti,
On the existing plans or revised plans?
Revised, the ones that just came today. Can I go to them? Or do you want them?
No, you can share them if you'd like, or I can open them up.
Right. Okay. I'm not good at this. You allow me to share the screen? Okay, so now look right around that arrow. It's moving. Conti to.
We can't see your screen yet.
Oh, okay. To the screen. Here, you here?
Coming now.
Almost. There we go.
Right where my arrow is 20 dumpsters to remain. I'm going to go to the landscape on this one. Common dumpster area, Koya and headquarters.
John, are you getting what you need, or is he moving too fast?
Am I moving too fast? That's headquarters.
This is for the planning board. This is not necessarily for me, but I am seeing what he's pointing at.
Okay.
Oh, right there is our dumpster. Right there, the note right beside the end of the parking, out this back garage door of the building. So they're there, and you're welcome to make sure. Good.
Can you go back to the Conti building?
Conti, which one's that out front?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll increase it. So existing dumpster to remain. And that's up in this area in here.
Oh, okay. I see the dumpster. Okay.
And we'll screen those.
All right.
Good.
John, Phil, is that?
That's fine. Yep.
All right. Let's move on.
So there's,
Stop share? No.
so there's three lighting, I guess, the up lights are gonna be changed. LI1, LI2, the photometric was gonna be updated as well. I assume those weren't included. I didn't see your photometric plan.
No, John Racine can weigh in. We are gonna completely change the lighting out there so that it's all down lighting. That'll take us a little bit of time to get that photometric drawing to you, but you can make that a condition. There will be no up lighting, and we'll cut off fixtures on everything that's out there.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead, Phil, sorry.
no, you want to talk about lighting? The last one is I just need clarification on LI3. It was difficult to understand the response.
Okay, I'll give you a little history on that. Back when we first started this, and in order to get Eversource or NSTAR, whoever they are, on board with going through the electric distribution system and getting the work order, we met with the building inspector and the fire chief, and we created a plan to show the addresses for these buildings acceptable to the fire and the police and the building inspector. There will be a sign that's 48 by 60 inches out front at the gate, and it will indicate an address for each one of the buildings. And then at each building, there'll be a small placard on the building for identification purposes. And that was included with the stuff for the fire department. As you note, there was an analysis of some of the driveway turning radiuses and the bridge analysis. It was in there and it was approved by the building inspector, so we could go forward with Eversource or whoever our power there.
Okay, now that makes sense. Excellent.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
That seems rather large for a sign, 4 feet by 5 feet. Is it needed to be that big?
Well, it indicates all the different buildings. So listing them out vertically, it's going to be a masonry sign with a placard in the front of it. So I think that as the fire truck rolls up, it's going to want to be able to see what we have there.
Oh, okay, so it's just one sign, not a sign for each building?
No. Small placards on each building.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, so through the chair, it's great that there's been some modifications done to the lighting, the downward lighting and whatnot. Does the applicant know, is there a change in overall lumens associated with, these changes that you're looking at? So, is it functionally going to decrease it, the total amount of lumens, or is it the same or increasing because of the additional buildings?
I'm going to let John Racine from RGB. Is he on tonight? He should be.
He is.
Can you weigh in, please, John?
Yes. Thanks for having me tonight. I think the fundamental lumens on the building in the area will be relatively similar. The site lighting was pretty minimal throughout the area. We did that on purpose. Instead of having it up light, obviously that's discouraged. We will have it down. It will make an effect on the overall lumens, but I don't think it'll have a huge impact in general. If you look at the when we did the model, we're well within the property outline, and we're at 0 foot candles. It's not even near the site lighting. So it will reduce slightly, but it probably won't have that much of an impact. There aren't that many fixtures to address, to be honest with you.
Got it.
So
I think the downward lighting itself will help.
Yeah, it'll help,
especially with butters and whatnot.
Yes.
And I just want to clarify, because the existing lighting in particular on the dormitory building, is that lighting, the existing lighting, is that going away? And is it being replaced with this new lighting?
I did speak to the owner, and they are certainly amenable to putting full cutoffs on the lights if they're existing, so that you don't get the glare that the neighbor showed us during the last meeting. They are sensitive to that, and we do understand. So we will address those fixtures. So it really is pointing down and not out. We also talked about potentially using timers and things of that nature to shut down during off hours. There are periods in which the Conti building, the residence, for example, will be. It's a 24-hour. It's a 24-hour facility where they'll have residents there spending the night. So they don't want to. I think there's hesitation just for safety reasons to shut all the lights off on the site. However, they are certainly looking at taking out lighting that's not necessary, and then if there is parking lighting or traffic lighting, to have full cutoffs to reduce the amount of glare to neighbors.
Just out of curiosity, would they? Do you have any consideration for motion activation after hours?
Yeah, we can look at that. We're not changing all of the light on the site. It's just not in the scope. I mean, it's quite a bit of work. So if it's something that we can, if there's an existing fixture that we can retrofit with motion, they're certainly open to looking at that. Yes, we just haven't, since our discussion, I haven't looked at those existing fixtures yet.
Okay, and I think I see Mr. Rodas on. The primary issues with the lighting was around on the dormitory building. Is that correct?
I believe
Gary, can
so,
you hear
and
me?
I
I'm
believe
sorry.
it's the very high lights behind the building that are very, very high, and they don't have cutoff.
Okay.
Gary, can you hear me? It's Mike Rodas.
Yes. Hi, Michael.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to thank George and the team at RGB for addressing a lot of the concerns already, and I saw in the write-ups. So the lighting that is really bothering us the most is in the back of the parking lot for the dormitory building on the very tall poles. They're, I don't know, 30 or 40 feet, and they actually go right over the top of that building now and come right into the house. So we're concerned about any new lighting, but also the existing lighting that run the back perimeter of that parking lot.
Okay. So I guess either to John from RGB or George, are those fixtures going to be updated, or are you intending for those to remain as is?
It will have big cutoffs on them. And then I don't think we need all of them. I think we could probably just have one running for the night, not facing the abutter's property. We're more than happy to look at that, and more than happy to make it acceptable to him.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm thinking that's, I guess, two things that I think would be helpful. One would be to update the drawings to show that. The other option that we could consider is another condition to make sure we've captured that. But I'm thinking.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Fran, go ahead.
So just a follow-up question, Mr. Chair, to the applicant is, those lights that the abutter talked about, those on the high poles, is there a reason that you need a 30 or 40 foot pole for those lights? Or is there any option to have a lower light, maybe a broader footprint with that light? And that might also help reduce some of that glare that comes into the abutter's view.
I would guess that would be the ultimate solution. I don't know that they really need to be that high. That high, they certainly light that back area and then some. But yeah, you're right. The height of them is, I think we should get the maximum lighting from a single fixture.
So just something to consider. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Dave.
Just a quick note. I had the same thought as you, Gary, about adding a condition about the lighting, and I just checked, and there is condition number 6 about all lighting within the development project that might not cover the existing project. So I don't know if maybe we could check with John if that's out of scope or.
Yeah, well, my hope is that they can go update their drawings to show those changes, whatever they might be. And then I think that if they do that, then to me, I'm not sure additional conditions are necessary. Yes, John.
So I just want to clarify with you and the board, when we are making a condition that they update the drawings, how are we confirming that what the board wants to be done is done? Because some of these things are not set in stone. So in terms of the photometric plan, the language that I've gotten so far from the board is that they are updating the photometric plan to show change lights.
Yep. I understand where you're going. And we haven't talked about it yet, but given that there are quite a few things to work through, I think realistically, we're probably gonna take this to one more meeting. I know that Mr. Connors is looking to move very quickly, but we also just had our first hearing a week ago. So I think we are moving pretty quickly. But to your point, John, I think that it's hard for us to condition something that still needs a little bit of design work.
When is your next
That's
meeting?
where my head's at.
When is your next meeting?
March 7th.
So let's keep going. I just, George, I don't know how to John's point, I don't know how to condition something.
We can come back to
Especially when
that.
we've got a lot of different things or updates to the drawings to make. It's gonna be hard to condition all of those. I'm certainly open to ideas if people have them, but you know, when we start getting into multiple things that need to be updated, it's usually much cleaner for us to just update the drawings, work through the design, and then we have something that's closer to the as-built, which is much cleaner.
Okay, let's finish off and then we'll get back to that if we can.
Sounds good. Phil, back to you.
So that leaves us with stormwater. So as I mentioned, or we discussed at the last meeting, that the plan has been thoroughly reviewed for the stormwater management compliance with the Hopkinton stormwater standards, as well as the Mass DEP stormwater handbook. So the only issue was some extra treatment at the fire pond, and the current plans show the addition of 2 storm scepters. So we are okay with that. And then we just have a few typical or standard conditions that we like to see during the construction, at least, that all the final SWIP and O&M plans and the EPA NOI copies of those be provided to the planning board. I think they're all in good condition, but we just want to make sure we have the final, and which includes signatures, etc. And then SW10 of SW2, which refers to the notice of intent review, SW10, standard condition to have someone observe excavations for infiltration systems.
Okay, thanks, Phil. And John, are those recommendations? Those are conditions we would need to add to our existing conditions list. Is that correct?
I'll have to confirm, but those are usually conditions we include with our standard conditions. I'll take a look through them and just make sure, but we usually include these at the same time.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, Phil?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. And so I think those last couple ones are pretty easy to address. So just to kind of recap, we'd like to add some building heights to the drawings. There is The parking drawings need to be updated, in particular to include the correct number of accessible parking spaces. And then I think the big one is just the requested updates to the lighting plan. I think those are the ones that I have that still need a little bit of work to close out Beta's review. To the board, is there anything that I missed there?
I do have a question regarding the traffic. I recall from the previous documentation that no traffic impact was done or something like that. Was there any further follow-up? Will there be a traffic impact study done? What is the proposed impact on traffic in general for that area, considering there it is partially residential?
George, I could probably go ahead and take that, but long story short, Ron, is that there is no change to the number of people that will be using the site.
Oh, and stop. Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Yeah, we're
Excellent.
constrained by a septic flow and a water flow.
So even though you're getting these additional classrooms, you're not expecting more students, period.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Can't accommodate any more from sewer and water. Otherwise, we need a treatment plant for sewer, and that's not what we're going to do.
Okay, thank you.
May I just go back to lighting for a minute, if that's possible? Because the other things I think are simple changes to the plan. Is there any way we could get this so the building inspector could begin reviewing this? Because it does take them a little while, and I think they're reluctant to accept the building plan submission pending the open hearing on site plan. And again, it's 48.3.
Understand. John.
So through the chair, I can talk to Chuck and Mike tomorrow and just see what their issue with reviewing the plans are. And if they need any confirmation from me, I can explain where we are in the planning board process and how we are pretty close to the end of it, from what I can tell. So I don't really know if there's anything the board can do at this point, but I can try and talk internally with Chuck and Mike and see if we can resolve that. What are you looking for them to review in particular?
The building plans, because they're fairly detailed and they'll take a little while. I do know that they have to go out to Maurice Paulette, the fire review consultant that they use. We're very familiar with Maurice over the years, but that does take time, and we'd like to be able to start construction sooner than later, and then hopefully be able to get a foundation permit for the front building.
So I can talk to the zoning enforcement officer, building inspector, and just let them know that if the board is okay with this, that there's really no proposed changes to what's shown in the building side, to really more site specific changes. And if that will help, George, your side move forward a little bit faster, I'm okay with doing that. But I would like to get feedback from the board to make sure that that's okay.
Sure, and thank you for your efforts and all this. And also, we've talked to the building inspectors, and everybody's been more than accommodating. So thank you.
You know, I'll tell you my perspective, and I agree with John's thoughts that, you know, if we look at the points of emphasis that we want to continue to or that we want to flush out, none of them have to do with the foundations of the buildings being built. That being said, I'd also say that you know, we're not committing anything to this, and we reserve the right. I mean, there's no guarantee that, you know, that this is going to get approved in its current form. So there's a little bit of risk there. But to John's point, you know, I know, for example, on a residential level, the town at times in the past has allowed a foundation permit to get things started before the rest of it is worked out, and that additional risk falls on behalf of the applicant. So I'm hopeful that maybe something similar might be an option here. But I just want to make sure that we're not bound. The entire project is still up for review, and so we're not committing to anything, you know, with regards to a future approval. That's my thought. I don't know if the board has anything else to add or disagree with on that.
Dear Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, Dave.
I would agree with what I would call like fast tracking a little bit, because it is an educational facility and it's almost like an A&R for us. I know it's much different, but so I would support that.
John?
So I think that's a very good statement that you said, Gary, and I just want George to confirm that he knows that moving forward with this type of review outside of the site plan process would be at the developer's risk.
Absolutely confirmed.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Fran?
So, Mr. Chair, I just maybe just pump the brakes a little bit on this, and maybe just ask John through the chair, have we done this in the past? Is this a kind of a precedent that's pre-existing, or I just want to make sure that we're doing everything within the guidelines, appropriate guidelines for this, and not.
So I can't speak as if we've done this in the past. I mean, we haven't done it in my tenure, but we haven't had a project like this under my tenure. Everything's been subdivisions or single buildings. So this is kind of a multiple building, campus-wide site plan, and they're looking to get a fire review first, which usually takes the longest. So it's sorry, that's not a satisfying answer, but no, under my knowledge, but I can't speak to whether it's been done in the past under somebody else's tenure. And I don't think it's an unreasonable request, just because it seems like the issues the planning board has is just updating plans to show zoning nonconformance and lighting issues, which shouldn't affect the fire review. But I mean, even if it did affect the fire review, then the fire inspector is going to call those issues out as deficient anyway.
Which is fair. So thank you for that explanation. I think it's so noted that the things that the planning board are focused on are outside of the building scope part of it. So with that as a context or pretext, I'm okay with the recommendations from Gary and Dave.
And I think the way I look at this, Fran, is we're not authorizing or approving or committing to anything. This is a function of if the building inspector is willing to initiate the process and the applicant is willing to assume the risk. So to me, I don't think we've made any concessions or committed to anything.
So I would agree, Mr. Chair, but I also, once that horse is out of the barn, it's harder to get it back if there were some things that needed additional review and scrutiny. Just so note that as a potential risk.
Fair enough.
Quick follow-up,
any other?
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Just
Dave.
real quick, I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to compare this slightly to the Marathon School, which was an educational facility recently, and that was pretty much fast tracked. And I would imagine that they did a bunch of stuff off to the side ahead of time. So that's in my mind, the two, even though this is a multiple building site, as John suggested, they're similar in some ways.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from folks?
I have a quick comment from our perspective.
Sure, go ahead, John.
If you don't mind, the comments that we received, I think they're certainly valid, and I want to convey that the owner is certainly open and is more than willing to work with the neighbors and continue to be a good neighbor. What we, from our perspective, would really like to obviously to move this forward, especially with the current environment. The longer we wait on stuff, the more expensive things are and things of that nature. And I will say your board has moved probably the fastest that I've ever worked with. I've been doing this for a little while. So I do appreciate that. And in the grand scheme of things, manipulating existing fixtures or changing out fixtures is a minimal part of the project. So we certainly will entertain that. It's not a deal breaker for us by any means. We really want to move this forward. And again, the owner really wants to be a good neighbor. If it means putting cutoffs, if it means putting dimmers on, changing out fixtures, that's not a big deal. Our bigger concern was, you can't build a building. That's the issue that And it doesn't sound like that's the case. So, like I said, we continue to be a good neighbor, and if there's anything that we can do moving this forward, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And appreciate you offering that up. And again, I want to reiterate that all the abutters we've talked to thus far have all reinforced that the applicant has been a good neighbor. I also know that for us as a planning board, it's a lot harder to chase things that we don't have finalized or documented. So for us, it's in our due diligence to make sure this stuff all gets captured and worked through appropriately. So I have no doubt that it will, but it's a heck of a lot cleaner for us when it's done before we actually take a vote. So just two other things that I think I want to discuss a little bit that were brought up by one of the abutters. The first is noise related to the I think the rooftop, some of the rooftop systems, and I just want to hear from the applicant what their plans are to address that.
John?
Sure. So for the Conti building, well, the crane building and the, when I say crane building, the training building and the headquarters is all new equipment. The equipment will also be on the ground, so it won't be elevated for both buildings. And they will both be screened as well with louvers that point the sound down to the ground. So that should eliminate a lot of sound that you normally hear from a unit that's up, elevated on the roof, and it's open. The dorm building, or the Conti building, will have new equipment at the addition, obviously, and 95% or 90% of the equipment to that building will be replaced, particularly the rooftop units. I believe the majority of the noise is coming from rooftop units or fan units that are currently over the kitchen, which is going to get replaced. And on top of that, it will be replaced, and there will be a new addition. You know, the building ultimately, the addition will be in front of it, preventing a lot of that sound from going to East Street. The equipment up on the new addition will be obviously new and enclosed in a self-contained enclosure that has soundproofing. So we feel that the amount of noise that you currently hear will be reduced, by replacement, good equipment, new equipment, and also additional buffering from construction that's being installed, and the sound encasement that the units come in. So,
all right, thanks, John. So you mentioned 95%. Which of the equipment is going to stay?
Yeah, so at the Conti building, the existing generator is going to stay, but that's on the ground. There are, I believe, a couple of fan units that actually, I think those are going to get replaced too. I think there maybe one or two fan units that are going to actually remain out of all of the units that are there. Trying to think, yeah, I think there might be a couple of small units that service a bathroom or a couple of bathrooms that may remain.
Okay, thanks, John. Questions or comments about noise? I see Mr. Radis has a comment.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the process is for just a resident.
We're a very open board, and so okay. We always go to the planning board first, but I appreciate you raising your hand. And since there weren't any questions or comments from the board, you're up. And if you could just, as a reminder, state your name and address.
Yeah, Michael Rodas, 22 East Street. I guess the only thing that I would request is a lot of those fans seem to be blowing 24 hours a day when there's clearly no kitchen operations happening or nothing else happening in the building. because those dormitories aren't really used that often. There's very infrequently people sleeping overnight there. So simply just turning the fans off at the end of the workday would really go a long way to reducing the noise at our house. And again, I think I mentioned in the letter that we sleep with the windows open most nights of the year, almost every night of the year, just because we like the fresh air. And there's that constant humming noise that is just in the background. Even if you measured it with a noise meter, I don't even know if it would pick up, but it's definitely the constant humming that happens. Simply turning them off at the end of the workday would resolve the issue. But it seems like they just remain on because they're on. So that was really the request there, is just if we can just turn them off, that would solve all the problems.
Yeah. And I will say that as a planning board, I'm not really sure how we would enforce or drive that. But I guess my just one question for John Gelsich, and I'm not looking at them in front of me right now, but what do we have in our bylaws currently to address noise from things like kitchen ventilation?
We're having the same thought. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
Well,
at the end of the day, I think the good news is they're going to get new equipment. The new equipment is going to have to conform to our bylaws and our design standards, and that's about the length of enforcement that we can drive towards. That's kind of my interpretation of it.
And through the chair.
Yes. Actually, hang on one second, Dar. Ron has his hand raised. Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just as a follow-up of Mr. Rodis's comment, and this is to George now. So again, not being there, I'm not familiar. Is there a reason why currently the fans are running all the time, and therefore is there a necessity for that to happen? I don't want to put a discussion point when it's a moot point because it needs to be on for whatever reason. I'm not an expert in your area.
That building was built, I believe, in the late 60s or early 70s. I don't have an answer for that whatsoever. We certainly will investigate that, but it makes sense that we can shut things off.
Okay.
I can reply.
That's all I asked. Thank you very much.
Sorry, John from RGB. Did you want to respond to that?
Sure. And again, I certainly understand Mr. Rodis's issue, especially in the wooded area. Sound certainly carries. We get it. Some of the equipment, the ventilation itself, the air circulation within the building needs to circulate a certain number of times per hour. When it's occupied, it increases. So the technology that we have today, as occupancies during the day, the fan units will run at a higher speed just to bring in fresh air into the building. In the evening, though, when it's not occupied, there is like a shutdown or an evening system where it'll slow the motors down, or it'll turn 2 out of the 4 out, or something of that nature. But code does require that there's continuous circulation within the building. So some capacity, there'll be some units running on and off. But to the point I was trying to make previously, is that the units are new. The ones that you're listening to now are from 1971, and they're on full blast the entire time. So it should be certainly an improvement to what's there now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, John. That's helpful.
Yeah.
John Gelsich, I'm betting you found what's in our.
Yep. So the noise bylaw section really pertains to use of construction equipment. And then oddly, it says commercial activity in residential zones, RLF, RA, and RB. The A district is not included. But it's also really for commercial activity, which is not HVAC humming.
Okay.
So unfortunately, our noise bylaw does not seem to include this type of thing.
All right. Any other questions or comments with regards to Oh,
the
go
chair.
ahead. Sorry, Sundar. Yes.
No, that's fine. No worries. I think the person from RGB sort of alluded to what I was going to say, that the older equipment, much more noisier from 50 years ago. So there is always a hope that modern equipment is far more quieter. So, not zero noise or noiseless, but far more efficient and quieter than the older equipment. So hopefully that goes some ways in addressing the gentleman's with the open window that the noise levels.
Yes, I hope so as well. And then the last one was just, and I think, again, I go back to the three things of lighting, of noise, and of screening. I will say, I think the tour was, the site walk was particularly helpful. And I was really happy to see that the applicant is keeping a lot of the majority of the mature specimens that are on the East Street side. I just want to sort of open that up though as a conversation topic among the board to see if there's any additional screening questions with regards to landscaping.
Through the chair,
Yes, go ahead, Sean.
clarify, are we discussing if there would be additional screening to protect the noise and light, or what is this about?
Yeah, we could potentially request it. I can't, I don't necessarily know, we can make that request and if we think something's warranted and see how the applicant responds. I think the other question is that there wasn't a ton of detail in the drawings on some of that screening. So it might just be a function of a little bit more accurate representation of what is going to be there and what's going to stay.
Thank you. Yeah,
but
that'd be interesting.
I think in general, most of this work is central to the site. It's something that most people won't see much of, if at all. But we always want to be conscious of impact, from the street and from abutting properties. And I'll also say too that I think the applicant has done a nice job, even for example, with the crane building, of siting it at a spot where kind of the hills go up above it, around it, which I think in general minimizes the overall height. So I think that they've been very conscientious of where they're siting the new buildings, of maintaining some of the really nice landscaping they have. But if there are additional requests that the board wants to make, then I think the goal is to make sure that what we come back with at the next meeting is pretty well buttoned up and there's not a whole discussion, and we can get through this pretty quickly the next meeting. So that's why I'd like to have this discussion now if there are further concerns or reservations or requests.
Thank you. That is it.
And
I was just
comments.
wondering.
Oh, hang on one second, George. Go ahead, Shahidul.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add that I was wondering, with all this discussion and what Mr. Michael has put up as a concern, I wanted to understand a little bit if we are, through all of these, have a path for somewhat mitigation, or it's kind of an ongoing thing that is outside the scope of planning board and we will leave it at goodwill for the moment.
Sorry, Shahidul, I didn't quite follow your question there.
Oh, no, I was referring to Mr. Michael Rota's earlier concerns and relating it with the screening and other mitigation opportunities, and trying to understand, are we expecting to see some mitigation path from George and RGB in the next meeting, or are we concluding that this is outside the scope of planning board? And so we will, and we heard a lot of good remarks from them. You have seen a lot of good efforts. So all these combined, are we leaving it at the goodwill that something will be mitigated in future?
Yeah, so I think that on the lighting, we have requested some changes So those will be reflected in the drawings. On the noise, I think that based on the fact that the majority of the equipment is going to be replaced and updated, I personally don't see much more avenue to document and address that. And then I think on the screening question, and that's something that we haven't really gotten into yet, but we can talk to it if we feel it's appropriate. George, go ahead, George.
Yeah, on screening and noise mitigation, as we indicated earlier, I believe, the proposed addition on Conti dormitory kind of encloses that open entrance area, so that'll help. We also have shown above the patio and the proposed addition over the pond where the kitchen's expanding, infill that area with additional rhododendrons and pine trees in that location, because we are going to have an outdoor area. And also over on Laurel Canyon behind the Crane building, I think when we were there, we looked at a house up the top on Laurel. We're putting in a whole line of trees along kind of adjacent to the little gravel driveway that comes out of the water supply line to mitigate some noise from whatever would happen in the pavement area out beside the Crane building. And then, as you noted, it's down low on the site, and also the headquarters building, we've left a huge copse of trees behind it. So there has been some specific effort looked into as landscaping screening for some of this, and additionally, the laborers, they maintain that place, like maintain the house. They'll plant more plants out there than we can count.
Yeah, and George, like I said, I think we've heard you're good neighbors, but I'll be the first to tell you that we hear a lot of commitments in these meetings, so that's the only reason that we do like to formalize this stuff whenever we can.
Understood.
So it's hard for us to document in the conditions or findings that you know that you're going to be good neighbors. So that's where, if there's ways we can formalize this, it again is a cleaner process for us.
We do have the landscape framework plans that I direct you attention to when you do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
So, I mean, other questions or concerns with regards to screening and landscaping? Okay. So we go back to our outline. I think that maybe what we can do is just to, since we have a little bit of time tonight, we can just get through a few more of these items here. Again, just to sort of decrease the time on the next March 7th meeting. And this is more of a formality, but in terms of reviewing decision criteria, other discussion on said decision criteria. We do have one waiver request that we can get through that I think we can probably review tonight. So that's my intention, is to keep working through this a little bit. And let me just find my right place here. So as far as the decision criteria goes for the major site plan review, the board must determine if the proposed application conforms to the site plan standards as contained in section 210-136.1 of the zoning bylaw. For the stormwater management permit, the board must determine if the proposed work complies with the Hopkinton stormwater regulations, which in turn requires compliance with the Mass DEP stormwater standards. If waivers are requested, which they are not on this one, we probably don't need to go into that detail, but if they, we can skip over that. So those are our decision criteria. Any questions or comments about said decision criteria? And with regards to how it conformance with site plan standards, John, I think you largely hit on this in your comments and review. That is that the proposed modifications to the site appear to meet the site plan requirements, as most of the buildings are interior to the site. The applicant should take care to landscaping and construct the addition of the dormitory building so as to be considerate of neighboring properties. Any questions or comments or additional concerns with regards to how the proposed application conforms to the standards contained in section 210-136.1? Okay. With regards to the stormwater management permit, principal planner's comments, the stormwater calculations have been previously reviewed by Beta for the Concom. Beta's review of this material is solely for consistency with the Conservation Commission review. I think any questions with regards to stormwater? No. All right. Other comments or questions related to the application?
Just what are our next steps, Mr. Chair, in this, in the process?
Yeah. So what I'm attempting to do is, we know we're going to continue it to see some updated plans from the applicant. And right now I'm just going through some of the other components of this so that we don't need to do it on March 7th, since we've got a little bit of time tonight.
So we can check the box.
Yep, exactly. And so on that topic, there is one waiver request to waive the requirement for sidewalks along the entire frontage of the property. We haven't talked about that yet, but we all know that waivers typically warrant some discussion. So, Mr. Connors, do you want to just quickly explain your rationale to waive the requirement for a sidewalk?
We have an enormous amount of frontage. We have virtually probably more than a mile of frontage, considering Front Street, Clinton Street, East Street, and North Mill Street, plus a little bit of frontage on Laurel Canyon. If you ever looked at the overall tax map, you'd see the 135 acres literally stretch from East Street all the way to Front Street. So it would be absolutely onerous for us to do that. There are scenic roads, and they would create problems with that. Exorbitant. Area inside has plenty of walking trails, and as we know, the neighbors use that area, little pathways and driveways throughout that area, to be able to navigate fairly easily throughout that area. I don't see that we should be responsible to put in sidewalks. Laborers have done a lot of improvements for drainage along that section of the street. It used to flood, and they've actually piped water through from East Street into the site into the back and cleaning it up. And they're doing more along East Street for that fire pond that we're going to dredge to the east of the dormitory building. So we do request a waiver on the sidewalks. Seem to make sense.
Questions or comments from the board on that waiver request? Dave?
No input on this one. Residential neighborhood.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I don't think there's any sidewalks around there at all, are there, Mr. Chair? Right.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Neither me.
And it's a scenic road and there's
I
no
know.
other existing sidewalks.
I'm okay with this.
And again, the primary intent and use of the land is not changing from what it was. So. John, can we go ahead and, any concerns with voting on this waiver request now? Okay.
No, I don't think there should be an issue voting on the waiver. I mean, it's not part of
Again,
this.
it's not related to the other things that we know they need to come back to. Fran?
Well, if that's the case, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to accept the waiver as written by the applicant for removal or not having sidewalks on the property.
Second.
All right, Ronnie with the second. John?
Sorry, Fran, nitpicking. To grant the waiver, not accept the waiver.
Gosh darn, John. You are correct.
All right.
I'll go to
Fran, I don't
timeout.
get it right either.
And then I amend my second as well.
All right, so we have an amended motion and an amended second. Any further discussion?
Through the chair, this is Rob.
Yes, Rob.
Are those streets scenic roads anyway? Like Clinton Street and East Street? It's more of a, yeah.
And North Mill, and North Mill.
All right, yeah, I grew up right around the corner from this. I'm good with this. The end of my discussion.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none. Mary, how do you vote on this waiver request?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Randy Young, yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar?
Sundar Sivaraman, yes.
Shahadul?
Shahidul Manan, yes.
Ron?
Ron Prefer, yes.
And Gary Trendle is a yes.
Thank you.
There. So as I look at what's left here, we've got findings, we've got conditions, final public comment, and then the final votes. My preference is to not get into those quite yet because I think that we've discussed a couple of findings to add. I think it's not going to be a complete discussion. So I think at this point, John, is there anything else that you think we can get through tonight?
No, because really you're going to do the vote for the findings and the decision at the same time. That's the end of the discussion. So, I mean, you could close the public hearing, but I don't know if that's really going to serve a purpose because if things come to light, then you'd have to reopen the public hearing. So I think that's probably it.
Okay. So then on that note, to the applicant, Mr. Connors, I think we would like to continue this to the March 7th meeting. And I realize it seems like a long ways away, but keep in mind that we don't normally meet every week like we have the last 2 weeks. It's just given the holiday schedules and whatnot, we move this one forward to meet tonight. So it's really not as long of an extension as it might seem, but are you amenable to continuing to March 7th?
We are.
Okay, thank you. So on that, and I don't think we need to extend the decision because we're still well in line on those dates. So I will entertain a motion to continue this hearing to March 7th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Ron Prefer.
Mary Marlowe.
All right, so if no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. Mary, how do you vote?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Randy Young, yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar?
Sundar Sivaraman, yes.
Shahadul?
Shahidul Manan, yes.
Ron?
Ron Prefer, yes.
Gary Trendle is a yes. So thank you to the applicant. Appreciate everyone's engagement here. And I think we've gotten through as much as we can. So we will have you early in our agenda on March 7th.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and your effort.
All right. So that brings us to the last items we have tonight, which would be review and approval of minutes from December 20th and January 3rd. Stephanie, appreciate the extra email as well. For those of us that can't access the shared drive from our work computers, so thank you. Does anybody have any comments or edits for either of those meeting minutes?
No edits from me.
All right.
No, it looks good and well written. Thank you.
So then on that note, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from December 20th, 2021 and January 3rd, 2022.
So moved. Mary Larson Marlowe.
Second, Frandy Young.
And so we no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. Mary, how do you vote?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Frandy Young, yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar?
Kundastavam, yes.
Shahadul?
Manan, yes.
Ron?
Ron Prefer, yes.
Gary Trindle is a yes. And I think that wraps us up. So yes, go ahead, Ron.
So I was thinking way back in December, we had discussed that perhaps in the February meeting, we'd entertain the idea of going back to face-to-face, or in my case, the first time ever, an in-person meeting. I was wondering what the thoughts are for that March 7th as a possibility, or are we thinking of holding off a little bit longer?
Yes, John.
Through the chair, per the town, I guess the Department of Health would be the authority on this one. We are not allowed to go in person until they say it's okay.
Okay.
So
thank you for thanks. I was unaware of that.
That state deadline of, I think, April 2nd is quickly approaching, and we have no guidance on if that's going to get extended or what we're going to do. But I will keep you up to date.
Good question, though. I was thinking about the same thing, and I personally find that I think we're operating pretty well right now remotely as well. And so I know some boards previously had gone back to meeting in person, and it certainly is something we'll continue to check in and engage and see. Not to mention follow along what guidance we get from the state and from the town.
Or even if it's like maybe quarterly a get together and everything else virtual, just, like to engage with my fellow board members face to face versus hello, little Brady Bunch people.
Well, there's always an offsite meeting at Cornell's, Ron, that we can request.
That's true.
Post it.
So some of the boards were meeting in person, and then they were forced to go back to remote. So even those boards that are meeting in person, should be meeting remotely. I don't know of one. I know CPC was one that was meeting in person, and they should be remote now. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. Obviously, the recent surge has been dropping significantly, so hopefully we'll get the ability to meet in person soon. But that's not my decision to make.
And John, I think we can go ahead and discuss this a little further now, can't we? And it wasn't on our agenda, but I feel like the timeliness of it is, and given that you've given me some.
I would say no.
All right, let's not discuss any further, just to keep ourselves clean.
Yes.
But let's add an administrative item to our agenda for March 7th to discuss comfort levels and how we proceed, and maybe we'll have some additional guidance at that point as well, since it is a month away.
And we do have a near record of being let go at 8:30, so we don't want to mess with that record.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Stephanie, did you get a motion in a second there?
It works.
Ron?
I got Ron for a motion and I don't know who for a second.
All right, so no further discussion. Mary, how do you vote?
Mary Larson Marlowe, yes.
Rob?
Rob Benson, yes.
Fran?
Frandy Young, yes.
Jane?
Jane Moran, yes.
Dave?
Dave Paul, yes.
Sundar,
Sundar Subramanian, yes.
Shahidul,
Kaiser Manan, yes.
Ron,
Ron Fraser, yes.
and Gary Trudell is a yes. Have a great evening, great week.
Thanks,
Happy
everybody.
happy early Valentine's Day. Don't forget your Valentine's Day gifts and
Enjoy the Super Bowl.
yes.
Good luck.
Be safe, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Through the
everyone.
chair.
Yeah, good night.
Oh, I was gonna say, A&Rs need to get signed.
Ah, yes, good reminder.
Thank you, Steph.
We're
Yes,
there till 7 o'clock tomorrow.
2
How many
A&Rs to
singers do you
sign.
need? How many singers do you need?
5.
Okay, I'll see. I think I should be able to do it tomorrow.
There are 6 of you on the call right now.
Yeah. The thing is, last week was horrible for me. I was going in virtually every day, so I couldn't make it back in time. By the time I got in the car, it's 4:30. By the time I get home, depends on Boston. So
The good
I'll
news
squeeze
is
in my
Tuesday night,
schedule.
John is there late.
We are there until 7 tomorrow.
Okay, then I'll make sure I put in my calendar,
All right.
and I'll see you
Bye,
tomorrow.
everybody.
See everybody.